you agree? I ain't saying that I'm better than anyone, but who better than me?
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to a brand new volume of the Femme Files. Now, with the brilliant fight that just happened this weekend between Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, and also Franchon Cruz and Aline Cederus, it was only right that I address both of those fights really quick before getting this started. However, I'm going to use this particular episode of the Femme Files to have a look at what Amanda Serrano may potentially do moving forward. So with that, I'm going to take a look at a couple of the other champions in the featherweight division, because if her role is to, you know, become undisputed at featherweight, we need to see who she's going to be fighting, right? And at the end of this one, I'm going to make a very special declaration, I should say, to another great champion who's recently just come back to the Twitter space. But this one is about the you know, Amanda Serrano opponents. So without further ado, let's get into it. So since we are talking about potential opponents for Amanda Serrano, it makes sense to start off with another Latina lady, as you know they call them. This one is none other than Erika Cruz, or Erika Cruz Hernandez is her full title. Now, funnily enough, yesterday was actually her birthday, so happy belated birthday to her. She has now turned 32. With regards to Erika, she started her career in March of 2016, I believe. She currently holds a record of 13 wins and 1 loss, I believe. Yeah, 14 fights, 13 wins, 1 defeat. She's fought some credible opponents. She is the current WBA featherweight champ within the 126 division, and she actually beat Jelena Marjanovic, who's a Canadian, a very well-known sort of Canadian fighter, who I believe was her last fight, because she hasn't fought since then. She won that belt in April of 2021. It was a pretty fun fight. One of the funny things about Erika is she is a southpaw pressure fighter. Like she's a typical Mexican boxer. If you look at what Mexican style is, or what people claim it to be, like, she very much falls within that mode. There is no finesse to her work. There is no setting up shots. There's no, you know, setting traps for people. There's no cerebral thought in any of it. It's all work rate, and it's all sort of wild swinging overhand rights and lefts. It's just, I'm going to out-throw you and I'm going to outwork you because you can't knock me down. And even if I can't knock you down, I'm just going to dominate you in this round. I'm just going to dog it out and make it ugly. She doesn't particularly set her feet very well, so a lot of times she will throw from very off balance. She also will throw from extremely weird angles that you wouldn't expect someone to try and throw from. And just because of that, a lot of the time they do end up connecting. There's, like I said, there's no finesse, there's no real like great technique to her work. It's just literally all volume. She's a volume puncher of the highest order. But it worked for her. Now, after that fight, she has defended the title once against Melissa Esquivel, who was another Latina, but I can't remember where she comes from. I think it's Chile, but I could be wrong with that. Now, again, very similar. This was another very fun fight. It was a fight that realistically could have gone either way, supposedly, but it was all about volume, all about high pressure, and it was just punches, punches, punches. Now, she does have pretty good head movement. When she feels like she gets tagged by like a jab or something, she actually does move her head quite a bit. She doesn't necessarily keep it on center line, but the way she throws, like, her head is never really on the line anyway. So unless you've got someone that's a very skilled boxer puncher, that can, you know, sort of time her and deliver high quality, heavy shots to deter her. She'll just keep coming forward and just trying to land. If you want to compare her to someone, maybe a sort of a more high volume Mauricio Lara, even though he throws a lot technically better than she does. But yeah, it's that kind of, it would probably be that kind of style, that typical Mexican style that everyone sort of knows and loves. Now, she is signed with DAZN and Matchroom presently, which means that for Amanda to become undisputed, she probably will end up signing a deal on DAZN moving forward, because they can get Mafude to come over and Hernandez is with them. I doubt they're gonna allow her to move to another network to do an undisputed fight with Serrano, especially after the money they've just generated and the, you know, the traction that they have, if that was the goal. But I figured I just wanted to put that out there so you can kind of see a little bit about her. If you haven't watched any of her fights, you know, do watch them. Like I said, there's not much skill, but they are highly entertaining and you won't be bored, guaranteed. But let me move on to the next person. Now, I'll put Erica Cruz first, but more than likely, I reckon the first opponent she would face out of the two is this next lady. And it makes sense because you could actually do this one on particularly any platform. It doesn't have to be, you know, DAZN specific or whatnot. However, this person, in their own right, they're doing pretty well for themselves, so I can't say that their career is now going to all be about Amanda Serrano, but generally speaking, it looks like this will probably be the next fight, or at least the fight after that. And that person is none other than Sarah Mafude. Now, Sarah Mafude, she is dual heritage from both the Faroe Islands and Denmark. She's actually never fought outside of Denmark as a pro. I believe she started her career in the pros in 2017, if I'm not mistaken. I could be slightly off on that one, but I believe it was 2017. She is currently 11-0 with 3 KOs. In her last fight, she fought Nina Menke. Now, some of you may know that name, some of you may not, but the reason you might know that name is because Katie Taylor actually fought Nina Menke back in 2017. I believe it was her 6th or 7th pro fight. She decisioned her at the time. Now, with regard to that fight, that was a IBF, it was a defense of the IBF title. The bout she had before that, she fought a lady for the interim IBF title and then eventually got elevated to full champion because something happened. I don't remember the full story, but there was a belt got vacated and she got basically elevated to the division's full champion. Now, I've actually seen those last 2 fights of hers, but there's also another fight I saw of hers with the lady's name is Bikiwi Nanina, I believe. Now, this fight was back in 2019. It's actually weird because when they was first airing this fight, I remember on the clock they actually put there was 3-minute rounds that they were going for in the first round, but I think they made a mistake with the broadcast and subsequently changed that like really quick. For the next round it went to 2 minutes. So she's not a person that's actually fought 3 minutes, but the next person I will speak about actually has done on more than one occasion. But if we look at Sarah Mafude, so her style is, I would say, a classic boxer puncher, for the simple fact that she works off the jab. She does come forward in her style. She does look to sort of stalk opponents down, but she doesn't really throw more than 2 to 3 punches at any one time. So it's normally the jab, then the straight right hand, or maybe the jab, then the right hook, or maybe even sort of like the jab straight, and then maybe like a screw uppercut or a screw hook. Like, so she doesn't stay in the pocket long enough unless she's actually holding, clinching with the opponent and, you know, being forced apart from the ref. She's definitely got traits of a pure boxer in there as well, because she will sort of look to stay safe. She doesn't look to stay in a kill zone for any length of time, but the punches she does select is very much that of her trying to work her way in between someone else's guard. That being said, she's not the most powerful puncher, I would say. Now look, in the women's game you could say, well, that's kind of relative, but yeah, she doesn't necessarily exhibit any real spite, or you know, she doesn't sit down on her shots as such. Everything is about emotion to kind of get in and get off center line and get back out before receiving anything. So yeah, in a nutshell, like, Sarah Mafude is probably a hard night's work for someone like Erica Cruz. I think Erica Cruz will still beat her, but it would be difficult because she wouldn't be standing right in front of her. You'd have to go looking for her all night, which is not what a pressure fighter wants to necessarily do. They want you to be right in front of them. So overall, I think those are going to be two very big opponents for Amanda Serrano moving forward. Personally, they're not anywhere near her level. And that's not her fault. You can only beat who's in front of you, which is the classic tale of Larry Holmes and Mike Tyson for their heavyweight runs. But I would definitely predict Amanda Serrano to knock out both Erica Cruz, because she's just going to stand in front of you and get tagged. And if the power holds up for the first sort of 5-6 rounds, that could just end up not being a great aesthetic for her. Sarah Mafude, more than likely you might have to go chasing her around the ring a bit more, but the power would definitely be there to take her out if you could. I mean, that one's very much likely it could go points, to be fair, because Mafude she's actually quite defensively sound in terms of like sort of getting away and sort of staying safe, so she wouldn't really take a barrage of punches. So unless it's like a one punch KO or something, chances are it may be she might actually go points. So I take it back what I said, just a little bit. But yeah, that's those two. Now, however, I want to move on to someone a bit more special. So we're going to bypass the Amanda Serrano segment and move over to the final entrant into the Femme Files. So last but certainly not least, I got to give it up to arguably one of the best women's fighters in the game right now, to be totally honest. Fights in the lower weight classes, so there's always going to be a lot more competition for her to have to face. That being said, she will definitely be top 5 pound for pound currently, in my opinion, and I think some of the other leagues and lists would agree with me. But without further ado, I want to give a big shout out on the Femme Files to none other than Superbad Seniesa Estrada. Now, with Seniesa is a switcher. That's the first thing you notice about her style. She is classically a boxer puncher. She can set everything up off of both the lead and the backhand, which is not something that most people are able to do. She stays normally within the orthodox stance. However, she can quite easily go from doing sort of a jab 1-2 and bringing her right leg forward, switching into southpaw and remaining in that stance for the rest of the round. She basically looks to find what works best for her, which way she can get her foot on the outside of the opponent's lead foot also. She sees which way the shots are landing. Can she land the straights clean from that orthodox, or does she need to be in southpaw to land the straight? How can she get close to land her hooks? Either way, like, she just fights she's very fluid. That's one word to describe her whole motion and movement. Extreme fluidity. She can punch with you, so she's not a person that sort of waits for you to finish your exchange and then tries to come back, or tries to just be first and then sort of get out of there before you have a chance to step up the gas on your side. No, like, she will quite happily jab with you because she knows her jab's going to be quicker and land snappier than yours. She'll even hook with you, which is something you know, normally they say never hook with a hooker, but in most cases she is the hooker. So, you know, it's still normally the opponent that ends up on the worst side of that. Now, 22, she's 22-0 with 9 KOs. So you'd say to yourself, oh, well, you know, she doesn't necessarily hit that hard, but she actually does. It's very deceiving, her record, to be fair. If you look at a lot of the fights she had that went to decision, most of them were a case of the person basically shelled up, didn't really provide much openings anymore because they felt the power and said, yeah, this is long, this is not going to be what I'm interested in for the rest of this night. I know what's going to happen. But, you know, if you put anyone in front of her that will literally stand and fight, just like, for instance, poor, what's her name, Miranda Atkins, or Akins, you know, that she got the highlight reel, the zone KO of, what was it, back in 2019, I think it was, 2020, 2019. You can see her power is real, because it's not that she just flurries people or like maybe gets them buzzed, goes in with a barrage and the ref jumps in. No, when she hits someone, they go down, like they drop to the ground. Most of the time they either don't get up or the ref has seen that they're not gonna, you know, they're not gonna survive, so he waves it off. The power's real, the fluidity is real, the foot movement, her, like, she's not a person that, you know, sort of bounces up and down and sort of, you know, like uses excess energy. Every move, every step she takes is well placed, it's well timed. It's, you know, she keeps on the move so that you can't, you know, that you don't get a chance to set your feet to unload on her until she feels like she's in a safe range to do her work. But there's not excessive movement. Everything's calculated. She's got a great boxing brain. She boxes just as well as she punches, and everything is set up. She also can set traps. I've seen her on numerous occasions, especially in the Marlon Esparza fight, for instance, set traps for her opponent. You know, feint a shot, see what she's about to come back with, and then normally fires a shot over the top of whatever the girl responds with. I've seen her do it several times in several fights. She's just very educated. And if you've not watched her, she's currently signed to Golden Boy, so Oscar De La Hoya. She fights on DAZN, so really and truly, if you've got a DAZN subscription, there's no reason why you haven't seen her. I don't know if they've still got most of her fights on the actual app itself, but I would definitely recommend taking a look, or even if you can get on YouTube and take a look at some of her, you know, some of her highlight wins, because she is special. She, I believe, is a current 3-weight champion. She's a 2 or a 3-weight champion. She went unified at minimum weight. She won a belt at, was it light fly? I think she won a belt at light fly as well. And she's currently looking to fight, I think, flyweight against Esparza again. She wants Esparza to go undisputed so she can go up to flyweight and take those titles, because she beat Esparza in the previous fight. But yeah, so she ranges between, I believe it's 108 and 112. But I could be wrong. There's probably a weight in there I'm missing. But yeah, she's definitely fought between 3 different weight classes down at sort of that lower end. Possibly she probably could go up to 115, but then that's when it's, you know, she's not a particularly big lady, so that's when it will kind of get a little bit might start getting a little bit more difficult. But she's up for the challenge. You know, she wants to rule her division, so she might end up going up there sooner or later. She's 29 at the moment, turning 30 this year, so she's coming into her prime. And yeah, if you haven't, like I said, if you haven't seen her, definitely go watch, because you won't regret it. Now, with that being said, I'm gonna call this episode to a close, and I might actually do another back-to-back episode, so you might see something else just after this. But thanks for your time, and that's another volume of the Femme Files down. Catch you next time.